Robert ShedLog, Sunday, 20th of September 2020. Hello, I'm Robert and welcome to my shed. This is the thing I've been working on, which is my solid ash left pedestal for my desk. I've made it out of tongue and groove, you see my previous videos, and I've tried to set 2mm gap between each of the panels. Still a bit wobbly, there's nothing holding it in yet. I know it needs some carcassing to hold everything in the right position, otherwise some of the gaps are going to be bigger than others. But once I've got an even gap on everything, it should start to look pretty good, I think. You've got the beautiful grain of the ash and the shadow patterns from the sides. The reason I went for shadow tongue and groove, it means if I'm a little bit out side to side in one of these panels, this one was probably a 128th of an inch or something, a fraction of a millimetre difference between the tongue and the groove, but you won't notice it because there's a gap there. Plus, you can see it's made of real wood. You can look into it and it's solid. Right, so I'm trying to make this knockdown, that is to say, without using glue, which means I'm going to need some more framing in to hold everything in the right position. Can't just glue it in place. Can't glue it in place anyway with tongue and groove, because if you do, the wood will expand with the humidity and the sizes will be all off. And that leads to splitting. So yeah, the grooves most of the grooves have a little bit of extra space in, so the wood is supposed to move. The ones that don't are this corner, this corner, this corner, this corner, and this corner. So these will all move as one, and these will all move as one. But I reckon that's probably okay. There's not enough width to be a problem there. But by setting this flush, it means you can really control the width of this gap. So this is the front. You won't see this much because there'll be drawers in the way. I want to have 3 drawers and a cupboard to sort of build. I'm also going to take this top down by about 5mm. I've left enough space to put some joinery in to join this onto the bench top. My plan is to have tongues on here running front to back and grooves manually cut into the bench top. So I'll be able to slide the whole bench top forward, which will let me access the little cubby here. That was the plan. And there's some other thing on the other desktop as well. And so this side is going to be a cable run, and this side is planned to put a cubby in. It's just like have somewhere else to store things, really. Trying to maximise space, user space. So to separate the drawer from the cubby, I've got this beautiful veneer. It's a solid 6mm wood. It's one single piece, 6mm, so about 1/4 inch veneer. And I can easily cut a 6mm groove into here and here, and it will just slot in like so, except it's too wide now because I sized this veneer piece based on some thinner walls. At the last minute I decided to just boost the walls up, so I will have to cut this down a bit, which I'm not really looking forward to. So the other thing is there's a gap here. Now, if you see my previous video, you'll know that gap is so that when it goes against the wall, there'll be a power socket here. You can't see that, just about this height, halfway up. There'll be a power socket, and I want to be able to access that power socket, so I put a little notch in here. When I was building it, I made this cutaway a bit bigger because I felt it would make it easier to get to the power socket. So that's changed a lot of the dimensions around. I had to redimension some of this timber. In the end, I only had to redimension these 2 pieces because these were still in the same place. Just moving this cutout. This is about as far away from here as I can get it with the plough blade as well. So cutting it further this way would have been tricky. I could have done it, but I couldn't use a plough blade. I'd have to do it with a hand chisel. The plan is to put the drawer fronts stopping on the front edge. And I want to try and do that without using false fronts. So I'm going to end up having to make something like a sliding dovetail joint, a blind sliding dovetail joint from the desk onto the drawer onto the drawer front, and I don't know how to do that. I might get some pine and mock something up before I go for the whole hog. The normal way you would do it is you'd cut a blind dovetail into the front corner of the front corner of the front piece of wood, and the side of the drawer would slot into that from the side. Now that's not really possible if you're doing it the drawer front resting on here, because you see the joint, and it'd have to be about that deep that you were slotting in, which you could do. That's one option. I just don't want to see the joinery when the drawer is closed. I think that'll be too much with the twin groove paneling. So yeah, some of these are really, really loose. Some of them are a bit tighter. If I lift this one up, this whole front's going to go with it. And that's okay. They've all got room to move. I'm going to lock them all in place with the drawer. Well, these panels, front panels, are locked in place with the drawer runners on the sides, and the three of them, and also by the top cupboard. The plan for the top cupboard is to cut a housing along the entire length of these panels and these panels. You simply slide in a piece of, I'm not using veneer, I'm going to be using actual plywood for that. And the reason for plywood is that it's more dimensionally stable. Generally speaking, drawer bottoms and anything long wide pieces you want to be made out of plywood or something else that's not going to move unless because if you don't, you've got to recess you've got to start doing bookends and recess things and allow for slippage and all sorts of complicated things just to make the panel. And I don't have the vertical space for that. So I was thinking about using a web frame as well. Again, I don't have a lot of vertical space. I want to really maximize storage. These are going to be 3 A3 drawers, which I'm going to use as effectively 6 A4 drawers. There's also going to be a speaker towed into the front. It's going to sit in here and be towed up and towed in. And so that's going to give me a sound plane upwards. So there's going to be back speakers behind me as well that are in the same plane. And those will give me a sort of sound setup. It's not going to be great. I'm going to be a bit too close to speakers for my liking. But this room is basically one giant echo chamber. Because these walls are solid. The plaster and the hard paint on top. So there's no way to get a nice sound in here, so I might as well just do what works best for speaker arrangement. So that means for this to go in, this has to be a cable running all the way back to the cable run. And there has to be, I'm also going to put a charger inside the top, a USB charger inside the top cupboard, so there's going to be a cable for that, and that's the cable run. And they have to go all the way down and connect to the other side of the desk. Yeah, that's where I am. Next step is the carcassing, which is much more fun. You get to cut small strips of wood and attach those to this piece. The idea is to connect it to the middle of each of these pieces so that it will hold up. And I think there's a way of doing it where you use a mortise on one end and a dovetail on the other. That helps it survive movement. Gonna have to look that up again. Something I learned about when I was looking at web frames. Incidentally, a web frame is a layer of material, usually MDF or something, or chipboard, that sits between the different drawers and just acts as a dust stop. Any dust created on one level doesn't get to the level below. It's easy paperwork a bit neater and tidier. Would like one in this, but I don't space. I really don't. To get the speakers in, I lose so much space. I can only really get 3 drawers in after that. One of which will be quite deep, but yeah. I've a fixed number of box files I'm looking to replace with these drawers, so I want to get them done right. Now there is another pedestal, and that pedestal doesn't have this arranged at the back. Instead, it goes all the way to the back, and it's wider. So that's going to have more drawers in it. But it's also not going to be entirely solid frame, because there's plug sockets and stuff at the back. I want to get my computer in and all sorts of things. So that's going to mean probably a bit more fiddly stuff at the start, and it should be finished a lot faster when I get to the end, because the carcassing is a lot faster than tone and groove. Tone and groove, by the way, is relatively quick and easy to do if you have a table saw or even a router jig. But I don't. I've got a plough plane, and it just takes a while. So this will be a handmade desk, made without using power tools, except that it was being planed already with that power tool. I basically got planks that were cut and planed with power tools, and put those together. And the desktop is all glued up as well. So yeah, the bits I'm doing are doing the way I want to do them, which I find fun, which is not down meaning, no glue, no fixings. It just mechanical strength of the joints holding everything together. So yeah, that's where I am, and quite pleased with that. Everything will go at a right angle, everything will go straight enough for the moment. Other projects on the horizon, I still got to do the tail vise for my desktop, and I've been working on a practice blind mortise turn joint, because I wanted to. Sorry, blind dovetail joint. Blind mortise turn is easy to review those. And yeah, that's all for ShedLog this week. Don't know what we'll be doing next week, but hopefully something action. This week has just been talking. So, see you next week. Ta-ta.